Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mama Says. I'm your host, Amber Autry, and this week I talked to Carly Mentlik and her daughter, Layla. Two amazing humans. Carly is the founder of the Inner Rainbow Project, and we talk about a lot of cool stuff like getting familiar with our emotions, the importance of your own self care, and how to connect with your kid even when they're not into talking. So, get cozy and enjoy this episode of Mama Says.
Hello.
Hi. What a
Hey, this is
beautiful
Amber.
background.
Yes, we're making a rainbow backgrounds for our inner rainbow project. So this is our first time like setting it all up and sitting here.
Oh, really? So you both painted that?
So we wait hands to paint it. I was gonna do this whole thing, but this is a tapestry.
Oh,
It's a tapestry that's hung up in the back. I had this elaborate plan to paint it the exact way, and I'm like, you know what? I think we'll just stick with art projects and buy this. It'll be up quicker because we would be sitting in front of a blank wall right now.
yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I love it. It's from Society 6. They have such good art and really inspirational too. Like,
It's really nice.
yeah.
So Carly, hi, thank you for joining me. This
Yeah,
is
I'm
so
so
exciting.
excited. It was so cute. I still love seeing like what you have going on and your mom and just the whole mission of it is really beautiful. And so yeah, we're excited to talk to you. We're a little nervous.
So who is this? Let's meet each other. Hi, I'm Amber. What's your name?
This is Layla. Layla has budding YouTube star interests, so this is a good practice for her to see how we're getting on in the video, talking to people, right? But this is Layla.
Hi, Layla. How are you today?
Are you a little nervous? This is Amber.
She's like, not about it. That's how I'm feeling.
Well, it takes like a couple seconds, but then she had dressed up, and I'm like, Amber is she is a comedian, and Layla has the best sense of humor. She loves playing jokes and like pranks, even though we work on pranks that aren't not kind. But she loves all that kind of stuff.
That's awesome. Layla, what's one of your favorite pranks? You can tell me later. You can think about it, but I want to know one of your best pranks.
Tell me one of your favorite pranks. My mom isn't like a prank lover, but they're kind of sweet. What did you say you were gonna do to your friends at camp yesterday? Did you had dressed up differently? She was gonna pretend she was a different person because she had a different shirt on that she normally wears.
Oh,
Yeah.
kids, I love that imagination, man. I feel like we're always trying to get that back, you know?
Yeah. Do you know the Picasso quote that says every child is born an artist, but the problem is to remain one when you become an adult? And
Oh,
so
man.
that's like so I always have that in my mind because that's like one of my missions for her and just in general is to not lose that like openness to being artistic and creative and imaginative.
Yeah, I say that a lot about like when presidents and people are like, "Oh, presidents like they draw." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's how they I mean,
Yeah, we wouldn't know like the other aspect. Yeah, that's so interesting.
right." So,
Where are you going?
I read of course about the Inner Rainbow Project and it's so amazing. I like you're the coolest. Can you You really are. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Yeah.
Can you tell the listeners like what the Inner Rainbow Project is?
Inner Rainbow Project is just a celebration and a mission to help just really what I said, like to not, I really believe that we're all born with all our colors and shining bright and alive. And then we get messages, sometimes subtle, not subtle, to dim parts of that. And then so the analogy that I imagine is like, what would a rainbow be if like the green was dimmed or part wasn't there? And so the Inner Rainbow Project is a way to support parents and families and kids really in their true self to help keep it alive. And so they don't lose it as they grow older. So
That's so cool.
it can all, and also the bravery and the comfort to be yourself and to not hold any parts of that back.
So you're basically just changing the world. That sounds great.
I hope so. I think that all of these kids have the ability to change the world. And my goal is just to help them do that and keep their spirit alive that helps them do that. So.
Totally. And it's easy, I think, for a lot of people to say, like, you know, kids have this spirit and we trust our kids. We're like excited for kids. But like, it's kind of like you mentioned, we lose that along the way, which is so sad. So I'm glad you like integrate the parents into it too. Have you?
Yeah, I mean, that was the most important part to me. Like that's what I found the most in like when I had a counseling practice, that I would be like helping these kids with all this amazing stuff. Not that I made it up, you know, it's just like being yourself, breathing, following your passion. But if the parents weren't also doing that and weren't living from that place and supporting that, it just wasn't working. It wasn't helping them in the way that it should. So I really found that was crucial. And for my own self too. Anytime right. I'm like, let me teach her something, like it doesn't work unless I'm present, unless I'm embodying that too, right?
Definitely.
So, right? Like I always tell you, like I work on my anger. And so we talk about that a lot, but I'm like, I'm not going to sit and teach her some like anger management tips. And then she sees me like go and lose it, you know, and not applying them and not practicing them or making the mistakes with that along the way and talking about it. So,
right. That is so cool. I personally, in growing up, my family had a lot of issues with anger. And so like it was learned to be seen as like a bad emotion. And so I'm currently going through the process of like letting emotions be what they are.
Yeah, even acknowledging them that, because right, if you learn that anger is bad, which it can escalate to a point where negative things happen. But if you learn it's bad, then where do you express that? What do you do with it? And so, yeah, so we're learning to practice that in positive ways and also repair some, like I definitely have some non-healthy approaches to anger that I'm working on. And if that like kind of comes out, or if I make a mistake with that, I'm like, hey, you know, this is what I'm working on. Here's a better approach to it. Let's do it together. So
yeah.
Are you showing her some of your
what you got?
What do you got there?
She's like, oh, let me get situated for this. This is good. Oh, is that a Shopkins? Is that
you know, you're close. That is close. You're on the in the market. A
Hatchimal. Cool.
That might be a Shopkins as well.
Oh,
she knows better than me.
So I love that you say too that, you know, it's something that you're still learning, because I read, you said somewhere, I think it was on your website, that like happiness is a journey that we show up to every day, and like every day we find something new. Can you talk about like, I don't know, there's this stigma around being happy where it's like, once I reach a certain point, I think I'll be done.
Oh yeah, like that it's like a mountain and I'm like the queen of quotes. Once you reach the mountaintop, then you begin to climb. So don't think that you get to the top. So
what a quote.
I loved when I found yoga and Eastern practices, because it's more open to the like I call it an adventure and happiness in what I do in Camp Chakra Kids, the program I help kids, because it is an adventure towards that. There are things that come up every day. So it would really be impossible to get to this peak point. And then something else I'm also studying right now is the law of attraction, and the idea that would we really want to get to that peak happiness? Like, and then just sit there and not have any evolution, or not take the journey, not go on a trip and see the sights. Like, so there's kind of both pieces to it, that it's if you see it in adventure and happiness, it's not something you even desire to. It's not a destination, it's a journey.
Yeah.
And I think that might be Aerosmith, but I don't know.
Walk quotes.
I'm trying to control it.
That's cool. Oh, is that a kitty?
Hatchimal the kitty.
There is a massive collection. And for those who are interested in academics, you can also use these for math and counting.
And this one.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea.
And this one. And wow.
Ah!
And this one.
Girl, this could take all day. I don't know how long that's going to be. You can
like this.
Layla's Hatchimo collection.
That's so cool, Layla. So you
Yeah.
have done so much with your life. I like how many PhDs do you have?
Oh goodness. Hey, well, I'm a PhD dropout, I like to say.
Oh, okay.
I went all the way through at NYU with my master's in counseling, and then I started a PhD in developmental psychology, which I really love, which is, it was really interviewing people and learning about their friendships and relationships. So I was really into qualitative research where you get to talk to people. But I was ahead in my PhD, so they said, "Oh, take a semester off." I went to Costa Rica because I had never lived in another country. I wanted to live in another country, wanted to work in another country, and it just blew my mind wide, like my life and my mind open of what else could be possible, what other kinds of ways of living. And I didn't want to continue my PhD. It wasn't applied enough. It was more me like doing the cool research and then stepping back and not being engaged with people. And I just, I became fascinated with yoga and my own personal journey. And I kind of wanted to explore that more and see how I can incorporate that as opposed to continuing with like the formal education.
Wow, good for you for making that decision. That must have been a little scary.
It was very scary because it was, I had been working towards it for so long. I had already done, let me finish speaking. I had been working for it so long, people were counting on me there, and that kind of a thing. And so, and I liked it too, and so it was a scary thing to kind of choose, that I wasn't going to get a PhD, whatever that kind of meant to me. So.
And then this one, which is a rare.
Oh, a rare one. Ooh.
My mom gave me that. And that's
awesome. So in that time, is that where you got the idea for In a Rainbow Project, or when did that come about?
Well, so the way I started my own business initially was I actually worked in gifted education. It was the only place in public school that they would let me use my different views. And what I found what gifted education is really this amazing like opportunity for creative thinking and philosophical thinking and social emotional growth. But it wasn't offered to all students, and it wasn't even offered to the gifted children, like children who are gifted in academics, because there wasn't enough resources in the public school. So what I did was no, sweetie, that's too loud. I started a business called Monzilla Learning that brought that education to as many kids as possible. So along the way with that, I became a licensed therapist. I started using it in private practice, and I started studying chakras and yoga, incorporating all that. And I had a private practice, a learning center in my town. And then I found out I was going to be a mama, but a single mama by myself, and that I was going to be raising her. I knew from the beginning that it was just going to be me and her, and I wanted to figure out a way to work from home. And so then I saw an opportunity to kind of expand what I was doing and bring in the work with chakras and yoga and the Eastern practices I was telling you that I had found were like what was really lighting me up and lighting up the kids in my practice. And so I took a chance to start a new business, which is a similar mission, but a different kind of a focus. And so that's how I started In a Rainbow Project. I had also too been developing the characters. So one might think this is a distraction or, but I'm studying like, so kids get so fascinated by these. I've been obsessed with like Care Bears and Rainbow Bright and the Smurfs and all that growing up. And so I started developing a line of characters that could be like a more modern approach that could actually teach these skills to kids, but in ways where so like, oh, I'm so obsessed with this. What if this helped me know that I could be brave and conquer anything just by, touching it, not by indoctrinating with you and teaching it. So that's what the characters are. And they're all rainbow. And so it all ties in with the rainbow theme. And
that is so cool. The chakra kids are so cute.
Oh, thank you. I don't draw them. I work with the most amazing artist that like somehow is able to put what I create in my brain and tell him into an image, and it's I'm just shocked every time.
I was like looking on your website, I was like, how do I get a sweatshirt with these kids on it? It's so
I'm gonna send you one. Hell yeah.
Oh my god, Because I did. Do you make like sweatshirts of those?
I'm starting to. I have so many ideas that I
Yeah.
just like. Yeah, but I do have a little store I started, like just where you can order the designs on it. Yeah.
It's so cute. So I noticed like when reading, there was a lot of like emphasis on using the kit as for like teenagers.
Okay.
But like how do you what's it like teaching Laila, like you and Laila going through this together compared to like some teenagers you've worked with?
Yeah. Well, the thing is really what's actually most that the tools I'm creating are really, I saw someone say like preventative, like they're to support kids in building the toolkit they need before all that shit goes. I don't know why I'm whispering.
There's a lot. It's
like even in before you start to experience that struggle, the initial like piece that it was like there's a lot of research for girls initially. That's what I started with focusing on, where around 9 to 11 years old there's like a steep dip in self-esteem because they're starting to get the sense of comparing themselves to others, abstract thought, and kind of getting the sense of, oh, this is how I'm supposed to be in order to be good and liked and have relationships. And then the dimming starts. So my work starts before that. And so you can support all of that. So when it already happens, you have your own toolkit. And it's not all about breathing and for every single person, it's like, what's going to help you get back to that place that lets you be in the world as your true self and not, get thrown off by different challenges and the things that come up. So yeah, my work actually in the past 5 years, I've done a lot of therapy with adults. And so that's even helped me figure out like, okay, what are they struggling with and what could have been supported? And same with myself, I talk with my mom, she's like, there was no self-help section even in the library, much less the internet. You kind of had to figure out like, I'm just gonna do the opposite of what my mom did that hurt me.
Right. So, yeah. Yes, that is so
the longer we talk to Laila, she gets her silliness and connecting.
Oh, that's so cool. Is that a pillow?
Yeah, this is something Laila bought with her own money. That's something we do learn about in Target. The mecca of Target. What do you really want? What do you want to spend your money on?
Did you turn into that pillow? Ah! Laila, who's your favorite chakra kid? Do you have a favorite?
Oh, tell her about your chakra kid.
Mine.
She doesn't know what that means. Tell her about it.
The pink one.
Yeah. So we started creating a whole new line called Mini Mystics of younger chakra kids because Laila wanted to know why isn't there a pink chakra? We got to move that. Or at least me. So she said, why isn't there a pink one? She was like 2 or something. And so I said, all right, let's make a pink character. And so now I'm working on a line for even younger kids, like 3, 4. And so there's a pink one now, which is like the little sister of the red ones.
That is so cool. When you approach this with like Laila,
you'll be able to hear her. I'm sorry, what?
When you approach it with Laila, how is it like? What lingo do you use to get her to be like, oh, like inside, like think about my feelings?
The thing that kind of like clicked, and I was like, oh wow, she's really understanding. It was more recently, but we went through and looked at like, oh, what does the red one help you with? What does the orange one help you with? And so that kind of idea of like, so the red one helps you feel safe and comfortable at home, and so more like a relating to what that feels like. And the orange helps you feel connect with your friends and have a lot of fun and not worry about things. And the yellow helps you feel brave and strong. And so she's able to identify like in her own brain, and not even share, you could kind of see it like, oh, okay, cool. And so now it's like when we were coming on here, we use oil, we use all different kinds of things. So it's like, let's connect with the yellow and be brave, because it is kind of scary and weird to talk to someone we've never seen before.
Right.
Yeah.
And you just saying that right here, like I'm invested in those. Like I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. I think that my brain, like I've been delivered all this stuff in a complex way, and now my whole goal is to be simple, not really, but to to help explain it. So yes, if I could explain it to you, and explain it to her in like a sentence,
Right.
that's really meaningful, because it, no matter how old you are, it has to make sense internally. That's the, it has to motivate you internally. So again, there could be like a struggling tween or a struggling kid, and I'm like, here, this is the perfect thing. Say if I was even able to offer that, if we can't get that kid to say, turn on of like, this is helpful to me, I see the meaning for my own self, it doesn't matter, you know? And so that's what I'm always kind of like, how can you tell when someone's attuned or is connected, and make that meaning for themselves? And so that's what I'm always looking for her. She's like listening to some example I'm giving, but that it's really clicking and making it, or then she can apply that in her own life.
Right. That is such a good point, because I've run into that where I'm like, oh, like meditation is working so well for me, you have to do it. And then like just like leaving that, and people are like,
Yeah, it creates this like no. And then there's also the trouble you always hear with, this doesn't happen so far much with her, but like, it's just because if it's your mom, it's like, she don't want to hear it from me. Any other person could deliver that information.
yes, yes. Yeah. How is like, I was about to say I finally reached that age where I'm like, oh, my mom was always right. I got it. Okay. Got it. I know this is like, this came out about later in your life, but are there some ways that you are a parent now that your mom like affected how you parent?
Yeah, I mean, definitely most. And what's really cool is that I talked to my mom about it. And so like what I had just referred to, as I'm learning, there was not a guilt, but it's almost like a protecting, like, because I have such a great relationship with my mom, and I know she tried so hard and she was so amazing, that there can sometimes be like a guilt to like acknowledge the things that could be better, so you can move forward and change. So what's really cool is that I was able to get past that by talking to her about it, like thinking of challenges I went through when I was a tween, and like, what could she have done? Thinking of how she tried to support me, and then if it were, didn't work the way, or didn't work the way that she ideally wanted. Like, what could she really have done? What could have supported me? And so there's that, but the thing that she always that stays and that is 100% important is that attunement, that paying attention, and that openness to letting me be like whatever I want. So like if I wanted to dye my hair purple, it's like cool. But there was always this like, I don't know why I remember this so specifically. Like if I wanted to dye my hair purple, cool. But you can't go to a PG-13 movie, and you can't look at like women, like teen magazines, because that will have a negative effect like on your inner self and your self-esteem. And so it was really protective and supportive, and also helping me free expression without like a judgment around that. So that's definitely something that I keep, that's a huge thread that I keep.
Yeah. It's so cool that without a manual or anything, she just figured that out. Like
all of them, how? So no internet, no Google, good Lord.
Right?
I mean, that's a good thing maybe, because you could get down the rabbit hole. You don't even know what's happening, but yeah.
I think that's a common thread between like people I talk to who have good relationships with their moms, is that they realize that like even though they're young, they're very smart and aware and like can make pretty much their own decisions, with some guidance, but like trusting your kid is important.
Yeah, and then trusting your own intuition too, because what if, like, you could look at Google, you could talk to your friend that had this amazing experience with her child that's supportive, and it might not work for your kid. So being open to all different possibilities, and also using your intuition and your attunement with what your child needs to be the ultimate guiding compass for the decision, I think is the best, regardless of how much you know or what your past experience was, or yeah.
So you I read about, you talked about the authentic voice with teenagers, like when they talk with their friends. Can you explain this? Because I was like, what does this mean?
It's that concept that came from my work when I was in graduate school and working with this amazing women that study authentic voice, and they had developed a research tool that helps people as the interviewer to be able to listen to the experiences of what the people were saying without guiding it, without affecting what they shared. So listening with openness. And so a lot of it really was creating a safe space and not the questions being open-minded. So for example, like really simple, like, do you ever deal with anger? What's the answer to that? Who's gonna say, no, I don't. What are some ways that you experience anger? And so it just opens up for, of course you experience anger, and like giving the safe space to talk about it. And I always remember that one of my mentors, Niobe Witt, said, if you give someone an open space to talk about themselves and there's no judgment and no stigma, they can't not share their authentic voice it will come out. Yeah. Because that's our natural inherent voice. And if there's a safety to share it and that there isn't going to be something judged or taken away or negative because of it, it will come out. So that's where I had this experience of interviewing all different teenagers from low income and minority groups, which often were asked, looked at it in the negative. One second, sweetie. Looked at it in the negative and like, what is wrong? And really it's opening up to just, what are your experiences? What is your life like? What are your friendships like? And so over time, I mean, within 5 minutes of asking these kids the questions, it's just, you could feel it, you can hear, you can sense what it is. And so for parents that are more like, or people that are like, well, what does that mean? What does true self mean? What is authentic? Yeah. It's helping identify what that is for your own kid. You can tell if somebody, I truly believe that if you're tuned, you can tell if someone's sharing freely and has that light on or is dimmed. You might have to learn their specific signs. And you also, the more teenagers are taught, like, no one wants to hear this, I'm gonna hide it. It could be harder to get out. But I believe that there's an attunement and like an energy, like you can sense it and you can understand what the feeling of it is like.
Definitely. That is so cool and beautiful.
So my daughter is being very kind and polite.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, but we're almost done. Why don't you just sit here? Okay. Are you done? Okay.
Nice meeting you, Laila.
Amber? Bye-bye.
Bye.
You did her very best.
Oh yeah, that's happened where they're like, yep, I'm done with this. I'm like, that's fair, honestly.
Also, right? Like, who wants someone to, I like to, I try to do the boundaries because there is an importance of respect, but do I want to teach my child to sit and comply to things that are against her energy? No. So it's like how, finding the boundaries of that.
Right. And being the mom and being like, I make the rules, but like, yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, but not like it is, I make the rules, but we make the, yeah, it's that's how, it's how do you not be like authoritarian?
Right. So with the teenagers, I know that my mom personally was like, you woke up at 13 and had 2 heads. Like I literally.
You're on your thing. I said this on your thing.
She was like, I didn't know who you were. So like, what would be your advice for parents who want to get that authentic voice and that experience from their teenagers, but the teenager is like a teenager and is,
I mean, that is tough because the other difficult thing for parents and moms, especially at that time, is there's a pulling back that's developmentally appropriate, but there's a more like that is more appropriate. It is appropriate for not to have 3 heads and be like, I mean, yes, it's normal, but it's appropriate to kind of to have not a separation, but more of an independence. So it can be tougher for the parents. So it's again working on your own self. So are you taking anything personally? Are you attaching anything? So not bringing that energy to it, and then really. There has to be an openness to, I am committed to see what does that look like for my child, like, and connecting with them in the where they're open to it. So if you see them kind of the most open, and there's just like a nice moment before bed where your daughter, your son feels a little more kind of open, take that chance. Or if they start happening to talk to you about something, a lot what happens is once the kid finally opens up and starts saying something, it's like, that's not really what, they don't take that chance. Like, so whatever it is that they're sharing to you, whether it seems ridiculous, like absolutely unimportant, not listen, like that's what's important to them. What they're sharing is always what's important to them. And that's where you'll start to see the authentic voice. And then you could, very conscious. You can't just, okay, your authentic voice. Now let's talk about your deepest, darkest challenges, and we're going to get to that next. It's so they think that there's some kind of like motive or that the parent has for getting themselves and open up. It creates the barrier. So in the beginning really is like this, just the openness to meeting them where they're at and listening for it. If that authentic voice is happening when they're telling you about so-and-so and whatever happened at school, start to pay attention when they're talkative, when they're not shut down, when their eyes are open, when they're looking at you. So all of those are signs,
That is such great.
I wonder it sounded like too, I mean, I know you're asking the questions, but it seems like you and your mom went on a cool journey where like now you, like, she said something like, find out what your kids love to do and let them do it. Like, what were the ways that your mom got 30 years, like when you had the 3 heads, like, was that a really challenging time for you? Or did she find different ways to kind of talk to those 3 heads?
She just wore a full body armor all like for years. No, I don't remember being that way, of course. But I think the best thing my mom did is she was always honest with me. Like, of course, there were probably things that she held back, but she was always like, if I had a question, she would tell me the truth and then like allow space for me to ask more questions about it. And then was just like always cool with what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to act and do comedy since young. And she was like, instead of being like, that's unstable, like, I'm going to know that. I'm going to figure that out.
Yeah, realities. That's why there's goals. There's challenges to get over. Right.
Right. But she like people have done it in the past. So she encouraged me to like be one of those people, and that she's just the coolest.
That's awesome. She looks so cool. I mean, I can imagine like probably your relationship must have been something that inspired you for the concept and the idea. The thing of truth, I think, is like when you ask like how can you see authentic voice, that's a huge part of setting the space for someone to share their authentic voice. Like if someone's on it, and again, a parent, right, there's developmental things, but you had the overall sense in your heart, in your true self, that your mother was being honest with you, and that helped you feel open. I mean, and that's huge. Those things can be harder. Like when I'm teaching, it's like, well, what's like 1, 2, 3? Like, what am I going to do, and how? And that is, and it's tough because it doesn't always have like a tangible, like follow your intuition, your kid will be okay. So I'm like, that's it, and no, but it's going to lead you to the best steps for you to apply the right tools for your child. It's
right.
Not, you don't just be open and that's it.
Yeah. You mentioned before where you were like, oh, what'd you say?
It's a constant practice too. Like you said, it's like an everyday thing.
Definitely. I I briefly like taught 4-year-olds at this preschool, and I was so blown away by how intelligent they are and like aware. And I like every second was interesting because I was like, do I, they would ask questions that I would like have a choice whether to be like completely honest with them or kind of like adult, like, oh, this like lie, I guess is the truth. But then
you're in there and you're like, oh, what have we been doing here? What is this?
Yeah, and they weren't my kids too, so it was like a lot. So you mentioned that like Layla came as a surprise, or it wasn't, super planned. What were
Yeah.
some of the challenges with that? Like, you were a boss, still are, but like in that moment, what were the challenges?
It's interesting. I mean, it's so personal to me because I don't have the same experiences as many single moms that I am familiar with, in the sense of I wasn't in a relationship with someone I wanted to be with, that there was then heartbreak. I wasn't, didn't, I knew right from the initial thing. And so there was no personal heartbreak on the back of me. So once I got over that, it really was kind of, okay, how am I gonna create a holistic, loving, like, space and support system for myself without that aspect, you know? And so I had that potential the whole time. And so, yeah, I kind of had been, building that. I mean, so that is one thing that I did really early on in my pregnancy. I mean, and a lot of women have trouble with, like, just asking probably, oh, I can do everything myself, like, very independent. So I had to be really open to, like, no, you can help me. Like, I do need help. Like, and that doesn't mean anything about my own worth or anything. And so really open like that, open to friends helping, open to seeing, what does loving relationship, like, how can I teach and cultivate that without the absence of something? And so, so I mean, there are challenges and things I'm still working on, but things that I had a chance from the very beginning to cultivate. So it's always been my experience.
That's awesome. Did you always
It's hard. I mean, hard being a parent. I don't know. You have the mom, you have four dads, I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah, definitely. You always want to be a mom?
I always wanted to be a mom. And I mean, that's why it's like a miracle to me, in the sense of, like, how did this happen? So I also had gone through the journey many years before. I did have that, like, I'm going to be married when I'm 28 years old and I'm going to have this, husband, and we're going to have these two kids and live in blah, blah, blah. So I had mourned, that was really important to me, and that was a big deal I had mourned that and kind of gotten over that. That was part of me traveling and seeing, like, oh, that's not the only option. There's so many beautiful ways to live. But I just, like, lost my train of thought.
Wanting to be a mom and
oh yeah, and so I just was like, how would that even happen? And there'd be, like, the woe is me, kind of like, that's never gonna happen. And I'm a mom. And it's like, I'm just grateful. And no matter what challenges I go through, I'm like, wow, like, that was really one of my biggest dreams in life. And, like, in a miraculous way, it came to me. And sometimes I feel like I'm grateful, like, that it's just me and I don't have to pass decisions on. So the philosophy is all just one way. So that I actually am grateful for. That I get to on myself and not have to compromise with somebody about my philosophy and that. So
that's so cool. And you're a great mom.
oh, thank you. I mean, there are days where I'm like, oh God, or I have that feeling, but that's also important too, to reach out. Like, I actually was feeling that way yesterday. And I had one of Layla's, like, her aunt, which is, like, one of my best friends, come in and hang out with her, and had it reflected back to me, like, no, you're doing a good job, and where my negative thoughts were like, no, I'm not, same thing. But I think every mom has that, like, thought for themselves, especially if you're devoted to working on your own inner healing as a path to being a parent. It's lifetime. So you can't not make mistakes. You can't not still have those pieces of you that you're healing and working on. And so, working on being as kind to myself as I truly, like, feel in my heart to everyone that I share with, but turning it back on myself is, like, it is a journey.
I seriously can't imagine, like, we're constantly working on ourselves as humans, like you said, and then taking on the responsibility of another life has got to be, like, you want to be, like, superhuman, and it's just not.
But that's why I almost, like, when I had I had already worked on surrender and control and all that. I mean, it was almost so over the top that it like I had to surrender. Like so many ideas. You should breastfeed, you need vaccine, no vaccine, pacifier, crib. Like it's impossible. It's impossible to navigate. So it almost like cleared the space where it's like, all right, I have to just listen to my intuition. I'm gonna go insane. And so it is a lot for sure. And also if you look at it as you don't have to be perfect and that it's a learning experience along the way, it makes a lot less pressure.
Definitely. That's so cool. You're so cool. Thanks. So where do you see In a Rainbow project like going? What are your hopes for it?
I see. I went to sleep camp and sleepaway camp my whole growing up, and that was a huge deal to me. So I imagine like Camp Shocker Kids as a program and just as like a lifestyle, and just like for people to feel like the what I share, and if you participate, like it feels like you're at like a mystical, magical summer camp that's supporting you like throughout your whole life. And with the Shocker Kids, I want them to be like the new My Little Ponies. I want every kid to have a doll of the Shocker Kids, and I want there to be I feel like there's I'm not the only one doing it. It's definitely people are out there doing it, but to create media that again, like this is the main thing she connected was showing you these little things. And if they have the potential to light someone up or help remind someone of their own magic in the same way and feeling, so when you put that sweatshirt on, you're not only like cute, you're like, yeah, I can be myself. That's what I want to help cultivate for people.
Definitely. Oh my gosh, I almost started crying when you said camp because I'm like, I'm signing up when that comes. Like, I would be there.
Oh my God, you have counselor when you teach people improv or something?
Oh my God.
I have a of like really like people who study like, I study everything, I study everything and I try, but I want like experts, like someone that's like, this is my passion to like kind of come in and do like guest speaking and just different things, just to help people light them up. Because I think also in the sense of mentor, like what if there is someone out there, like, again, your mom offered that to you as like, you can be anything, but the more experiences people see of like, you don't have to be like doctor, lawyer, like there's so much you can be. You don't have to put a cap on it. So I think that's awesome too, to like kind of share that.
It's so cool. Can you imagine a world where kids are just like, well, everybody are just openly expressing their feelings and then we can like communicate better? Like,
yeah, and it's not like, yeah, exactly.
It's on its way.
It is. It's on its way. There are people devoted to being the light, like raising the vibration of the planet. I know that's like a kind of a woo-woo phrase, but it really is. Like everything vibrates, and if you can practice to bring that positivity, then it is coming. So
exactly. So there's like, you can actually like you can go through a program right through In a Rainbow project that teaches you. Can you talk about that? Because I'm sure a lot of people are going to be like, how do I get in on
yeah, I'm always working on it. Again, I can't keep my so what I'm working on right now, or refining, is called Camp Shocker Kids. So it's virtual, but it's a feeling of, when I went to camp, it was like you can go to the art studio, you can go play sports, but this is the same, but to help your inner world. So there's support for the parents and different journeys and quests for the kids to start to get to know, like Red Camp, like here's everything that can help you support yourself in learning how to connect with your family and your home and feel comfortable wherever you are. And so it's like visiting this virtual place, and all within a program of different creative projects. And I filter in the meditation and the yoga and the breathing, but it's like, the idea is like giving the kids a buffet, especially because how do you know there's all different learning styles. So you need to offer all different ways for people to see what they like. And so I don't know if you've ever been, but I used to be enamored with Disney World. I grew up on the East Coast, and there was Epcot Center. And so you could go to all the different countries. So that's my goal, is to create that kind of experience, but for chakras. So there's a way to kind of see what you like what kind of food do you like, what smells do you like, what lights you up, what helps you balance that area of your life. And so it's kind of like a little mental health buffet virtual campus, I like to call it, if that makes any sense.
I love that so much. I support you in that 1,000%, because that is awesome. That's so cool. So I now that this is like stamped in time, and we had Laila with us for a minute, which was so wonderful. She is so cool. I love when she lit up. I'm like, oh, this girl's awesome. What would you like her to know?
Yeah, it takes a while, but if we were in person, she would be like your best friend right now, stopping the interview and making you like play in the back with all her toys.
Oh. What
She
would
thought
you?
you were coming over.
She what now?
She thought you were coming over
Oh, she
to
did.
our house.
Oh, that is so
It would be hard for you to go and visit every person that you were interviewing.
right. Kids like invites from kids are the best though, because they're like, we can watch Paw Patrol and we can eat ice cream, and I'm like, yes, that sounds amazing. Let's. I'm
That's maybe
down.
the best ever.
Right. Well, what would you like Laila to know forever?
That her worth doesn't depend on anything that she does, and that she is, that she doesn't need to do anything to deserve unconditional love, and that's it. Yeah. That's like what I'm seeing is the hardest for me. And it's tough, but I don't like, how did I, get that, so my belief that I, deserve and am worth just abundance, happiness, love, joy without doing anything. That's one of my biggest challenges, and that I'm still working, getting over. And so if I can teach that, then everything else will come from that.
That's really great. I feel like I struggle with that too. Like I do a lot, and then lately I have to step back and be like, okay, am I like enjoying what I'm doing, or am I just like doing a bunch of stuff just to do like be important?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
that's a hard lesson.
I mean, and then, when I see even just the little promo you had, and then, you're saying that to me, and then I'm imagining your mom not thinking you need, knowing in her deep heart. Like I was texting my mom yesterday and just being open with her about that. And she's like, yeah, I wish you believed that too, and so to have love, unconditional love being shared with you, and to still like, what is that, and so that's why it's so important to help other kids to not ever feel that way or have that be a conflict or question.
That's so great. On that thought, is there a way that ties into like when Laila does something good, or like helps out, is that in your mind too, of like, with like some people do allowances, or I don't know, is that
it's more positive, just the positive reinforcement of supporting it. And I'm not making it a big deal, but not making it too much of a big deal, but repeating it and constant. So since she's been like, 2 years old, or just, when she was saying, oh, I share, sharing something with a friend. So instead, like, wow, that was really positive, and that was really kind of you, and really showing what a thoughtful person you are to share with your friends. So I'm always constantly pointing out to her the things that she's doing that are thoughtful and kind, and reflecting some inner, something inner positive to her too. And then on the same sense, making it very clear, like, you don't have to be perfect. Like, that's okay that you made a mistake. I make mistakes, so on both ends of it. But I don't tie allowance into that. It's for the inner feeling.
Yeah, I love that. Like that is what we focus on, of like what makes us feel good and making others feel good at the same time. That's dope. So the last question I have, thank you so much for joining me. This has been so
Oh, this is so amazing. Yeah, I appreciate it. Helps me feel connected too.
I'm so glad. What would be your mama says advice, whether that's to the parents or the kids, whichever?
It's really what I said. Like start with own your own work. If you truly value your own cultivation of self-worth and self-love and commitment to your inner healing, you will help your child. Like that is the ultimate. And anytime I try to shift back, like, no, I have to teach her that doesn't it doesn't work. There has to be a presence, and because they're seeing what you are more than, so the energy that you're creating, just who you are as a person, just focusing on that and believing that you, again, does the same thing I said about Laila that I wish for her, like that believe that you deserve happiness and joy in the same way as you are unconditionally believing that your child deserves it.
That is facts, facts, facts. Those like, yes, Carl, you reminded me of like when they say like put your mask on first before helping the child. Like you got to be with it.
There's a lot that you have to, like, that's selfish, that's wouldn't work, that's indirect, like, no, and they're all false. It is the truth.
That's really great advice. Well, again, thank you so much. You are amazing.
Thank you. This is really amazing. I had the best time, and I'm going to get you that sweatshirt, and when there's experts, I would love for you to do some kind of something. I'll figure it out.
I will be there.
I have big visions, I'm holding them all and believing they'll be in reality.
Yes, I'm believing them with you, girl, to the top. I support you.
Okay.